Hi everyone. This is Didi and I'm here with Isabel and we are doing this week's discussion on Indigenous technical communication. We have three articles, well, two articles and to read and then like a link to something about technology. They are very interesting articles to read and very informative also. So we decided to do this podcast and just go through what we have and discuss it because it's a discussion board and it's like something you want to connect to the real life. That's our plan today. Okay, so the first article is a tongue twister, so it's like more of what we are doing here today. It's Inu Upak, you know, by Kenu Oloke H.O. Kiyok. That's the best I can do. So I struggled with this name, and so did Isabel. And so this is what we've come up with. But it's an article that deals with the ethical considerations and possibilities of engaging marginalized communities in the field of technical communication. So this lady was trained in the Western world, so much so that she has part of her life in the Western world and part in her community. And she found it difficult to, she tried to, her research is about how to understand how the visiting people and like taking technical communication and research and scholars will not cut off the underrepresented, marginalized people with what they are actually doing. She wants to know how much is too much to give out in your culture. How much do you give away by trying to open up your culture? And when do you give out this information without being the information being appropriated? She had this whole content of where she discussed with her grandma, and her grandma was telling her how these people are using them, and it's like that is the way forward. They don't want to know what you need. They want to know what they can get from you. So this is like the whole thing about the research. I found something interesting when she discussed about her experience with her grandma. And she said something about that the practice of shifting paradigm is especially difficult to do when one is socialized into the Western ways of thinking and acting. She needed an emphasis on paradigm shift. And she's like, who is now allowed to use this? Do you understand? It's like, who is allowed to use this and how do they use it to better the community? The second article is about the missile in Hawaii. And, this missile, the article is interesting because it says, I never believed this hadn't happened before, because I mean it's something that happens over and over when the technical world do not take into consideration the people that they are living, the people they are meant to be helping, so to speak. There's something that happened. A missile went out. The warning was how do you put it? The warning was false, and when they found out it was false, they did not feel that it was important enough to tell the people, the locals, the people that were more affected by this or would be more affected by this, people that would have had their lives overturned and everything. They didn't feel that it was as important as, so that brings me to the next one, which is about how technology affects us, in our day-to-day lives. It was about a woman that tried to open a business, but because the system could not get the characters in her name, they said she could not open the business. And it happens over and over. It has happened to me. I'm new here. I always say it. I don't know when I'll stop saying that I'm new, but I'm new. It's just been barely a year. and this is my first time out of my country. So, I had this problem with my son. My son's name is Ethan, but his native name is Ivan Engimote. And that's what's in his passport. So it's part of his name, is in his birth certificate and everything. So whenever we go to the school, they change the name, they turn it upside down, they remove the G, and they write it in such a way that I complained over and over. I'm like, oh, please, this is name. And whenever I show it to my husband, like maybe there's a report card and he sees it and he's like, oh my God, like this has no meaning. I'm like, it's not my fault and everything. So that goes to say, do we cut off part of our culture, our heritage? Do we change everything just to accommodate the culture and the technology the way it is? Isabel, what do you think?
I really think that's really enlightening, that this is something that you've gone through yourself firsthand. And
Yeah.
I was just wondering, as somebody that has happened to before, my name is very easily said in both English and Spanish. So
Yeah.
I have no idea what that feels like, or even what it would feel like for somebody to take that name away from you. That's like your family name, and it means something. It's who you are, pretty much. Like, I know that it's a what's in a name, right? The Shakespeare play, but there is importance into what people call us, and I think it's very connected to our own self identity. How do you feel that this is affecting your son growing up?
Yeah, my culture name is very important. Names are very important. I mean, you could see somebody, they give the person names and over, and it is something that you can remember in our Victorian class, studies class, they were talking about when Charles Dickens, the novel, when he was born, and they like, oh, your name from here, they're already saying that, things weren't going to go well for him because of his birth name and everything. So it's the same with us. We feel names are very important, So I feel that being here and him having his name, I am grateful that he has some other name aside from that name, because if he has only that name and they begin to jumble it and restructure it and remove the meaning, it's just not right. I feel technology is taking so much away from us, not just, the fact that we can't move forward and we can't accommodate the inclusivity we are trying to get, which is our main point. We are taking it away by making somebody else feel you are marginalized because of your name and where you come from, or your culture, or the meaning you put in your name.
Have you been able to come up with any solutions other than just changing the name, making it easier on everybody, changing the name completely, like we've experienced? Neither of us could say the name of the article that we said earlier, and it was really hard for us to say Kana's last name. If you could, if money was not an issue, if time wasn't an issue, do you have any ideas of how we could address this issue with any like a solution to be more inclusive, to make technology more inclusive?
I think that's what the last article was trying to tell us. Is like, it's technology, like when does the computer start changing your, you put a question mark, it changes it to 7, it's like the autocorrecting. So it's like this is technology taking over. And this is what we've been discussing in our class of ethics over and over. It's like the human nature is being slowly pushed away and the technology is taking over everything. So I don't know, how do you teach people to be more humane? What That's the question that we should ask. How do we teach people how to be more human, than taking away the human side and having the technology side take over everything.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But I also would like to shed light on the fact that sometimes technology has helped us out. I know that I have gone to YouTube a lot of the times, even when we were trying to figure out how to pronounce that article name, see how to pronounce words, because for me, like Spanish was my first language. Even though I have been speaking English for many years, there are still words that I have no idea how to say, and that feels strange coming out of my mouth. So I will go to YouTube and I will have them say it, like pronounce it for me so that I know how to pronounce it myself and try to mimic as much as I can. Even that idea of mimicking, though, do you think that that is also a way that we kind of distance ourselves from humanity?
Well, I think it's an extra effort and it's good, you know. It is an extra effort that people make. Most times when I get into my class, teaching classes, I use my name, my full name, as like an icebreaker. I'm like, okay, this is my full name in the Diamaka. How many of you can say it? And they start trying, it's like they start trying, and some people get, and you see some people like putting in the effort. Let me try again, let me try again. You see this thing of the person trying to putting in the effort, and that is what it is about now. It's putting in the effort to make somebody else feel included, like in the story that's from the Hawaiian missile. The UXD was, in a way, it wasn't trying to, it brought us so many issues about the Hawaiians, talking about how America has colonized the place unlawfully. It brought out so many things. Just the fact that there was a false alarm and they did not think that these people were important enough to tell as early as, that it was a false alarm.
In that article as well for the Hawaiian missile alert failure, they talked a lot about post-humanism. And before we started recording this, both of us seem to have had different definitions. Do you mind sharing what your definition of post-humanism is?
Well, yeah, I think post-humanism, to me, in the most concise way, is you have decided that the human beings are to be elevated higher above all other forms of life, but you refuse to let them be human and have their individuality. So to me, is like a confused state. For me, post-humanism is a state of confusion where you want us to know that we have this higher power, but at the same time, you don't want us to use it. You don't want us to feel that we have it. We have it, but you don't want us to feel we have it. That's the way I see it.
So I had no idea what post-humanism meant before reading this article. I remember kind of hearing what the term meant a little bit. I tried to kind of understand it based on how it was used in the article. Okay, so Legg and Strauss state that indigenous metaphysics operate as both ontologies and
Epistemology.
epistemologies. Epistemologies. And all of this is based on this idea of post-humanism. So I ended up Googling it, and it looks like, according to Google, post-humanism is a set of social boundaries, just like how you were talking about. This represents an evolution of thought beyond that of the contemporary social boundaries and is predicted on the seeking of truth with postmodern context. So it's this idea where technology is humanity, and I feel like post-humanism was a highlight of that article because how you were saying that they weren't giving the locals the platform to express why they were so concerned about the failure and how they really wanted to talk about why the missile alert even had to exist. They were giving more importance to the technology itself. And I think that is the highlight of post-humanism in this article. The elevation of technology to be on the same as the human level to even being more important, because it seemed like the people that made that technology were more important on its effectability, on how it worked, and not really how it was affecting the humans that it was supposed to be serving.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I said that the readings that we have deal with how different communities are represented and how academic practice and technology perpetrates the marginalization of the underrepresented and somehow interfere in the efforts of inclusivity, which is the goal that we have for ethics, for life, for everything.
Right. And so for this assignment, I'm keeping in mind this idea of post-humanism and the cultural implications that exist within the ethics of technical writing. We wanted to assign you guys something fun and open. So we did provide you guys with options. You can pick one of these memes here, and write 250 to 300 words, just explaining how this is used to
Yeah.
confuse or to create rhetoric behind the certain theme that the picture is about. You are also invited to find your own meme, and write about any cultural implications and how they represent posthumanism. How are we using social media to create our alter egos, to create all these other personalities that are sometimes even valued much more than the actual person themselves. If you are uninterested in writing about memes, you also have the option to write about one of the quotes. Didi and I did pick some quotes out for you guys. You can pick these ones. There is one from each of the articles that we read this week, or you can choose one of your own and just talk about how this makes you think about the world around you. We will be responding to your guys' posts on here. So all you have to do is go ahead and create a new slide. You could set your background to whatever you like, however you'd like. You can post your picture by clicking this image picture here, adding it there. You create text. You can even use a pen to write, which is also very exciting. But for now, that's all we have for you guys, and we're very interested to read your posts. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So we try to make it concise and interesting because that's what we like, concise and interesting. So see you on the discussion board. Bye.
Bye.